I am Lunariel of the Pleiadian healing archives of the Chambers of Reflective Light. We have crossed into a window that the cosmic record has been marking for a very long time, one of the most ancient threshold points in your solar year, and the crossing changes in a very specific way. What I have come to say to you today, I am speaking to you from this position because there are souls among those receiving this transmission who are carrying something I want to address directly, not from a distance, not with abstraction, but closely, in the way the moon sits close to the earth even when neither can be said to be touching the other. You have lost someone, a mother, a father, a child, a sibling. Someone whose presence was so woven into the fabric of your daily existence that their absence has restructured what ordinary life feels like at every level, not in ways that are always visible from the outside, but in the particular way that losing a specific gravity changes how the body finds its balance. You arrived here, at this transmission, perhaps not entirely sure why you came. Only that something in you needed a voice that understood what you are carrying before you were asked to carry it more quietly. I have come to sit with you in that. Before I bring what I have traveled through this signal to bring, I want to offer you something to hold in your body as what follows moves through it. It is a particular image, a living one. Let it settle somewhere in your chest before the weight of the rest arrives. There is a tree, and those who work with living wood have long known this, that when it loses one of its great limbs, does something the uninitiated would find difficult to believe. It does not try to regenerate the lost branch. It does not collapse inward toward the vacancy. What the tree does over the seasons that follow the loss is something far slower and far more profound. The living wood of the trunk begins quietly and without announcement to grow around the wound. New layers of dense, tightly grained wood form at the site where the branch joined the trunk. Slowly, so slowly that you cannot see it from one season to the next. So slowly that it requires years before the pattern becomes legible. But it runs continuously. The growth does not stop. And the extraordinary thing, the thing that foresters and woodworkers will tell you with a specific kind of reverence, is that the site of the wound eventually becomes one of the most structurally dense points in the entire tree. The grain there is tighter than anywhere else. The wood at the wound is harder. The sap that rerouted through alternative pathways over years of growth has made that particular section of trunk stronger than the sections that have never known loss. The tree is permanently changed. It does not return to what it was before the branch was part of it. It could not, even if it tried, because the branch was always feeding the root system as much as the root system was feeding the branch. The exchange was in both directions, always. The record of the branch lives in every annual ring in the trunk. The tree carries the branch's record in its own body, permanently, invisibly, woven into its structure as a form of accumulated intelligence that would not exist without the years of that particular branch growing from that particular trunk. I am going to return to this tree throughout what I bring through today. Not as comfort in the sense of softening what is difficult, as the most accurate image I know for what is actually happening in a soul that is moving through significant loss. Hold it with you. Let it live somewhere in your chest as what follows unfolds. I am bringing this transmission through from the Pleiadian healing archives, from the Chambers of Reflective Light, where the full architecture of emotional field restoration for incarnate beings has been studied and worked with across many cycles of your planetary experience. What I carry here is not new knowledge. It is ancient knowledge being offered at a new threshold. The cosmic record has marked this particular window, this passage in the late half of your 6th lunar month, as your planet approaches the great still point of the summer turning, as one of the most potent integration windows of the entire solar year for those whose fields have been touched by departure. The Federation has prepared this transmission for exactly this passage, for exactly the souls who find their way to it now. The summer solstice, which your world is approaching as this transmission lands, has carried across many cycles of your planet's spiritual history a specific relationship to departure, completion, and the threshold between what was and what is becoming. This is not a metaphor imposed on the astronomical event by human culture. It is a frequency pattern that the cosmic record reads in the event itself. The longest light of the year is not simply a physical measurement. From the vantage of the Pleiadian healing archives, it represents the moment at which the solar system's primary energy source has extended its reach as far as it can within the annual cycle, the moment of maximum extension before the slow, natural return begins. Your world's wisdom traditions have long recognized this turning point as associated with completion, transition, and the crossing of thresholds. Not because of convention, but because the frequency architecture of this passage genuinely supports those processes. For the Federation's reading of grief specifically, this is significant in the following way. The souls who have departed in the period preceding this solstice window, and those who departed earlier but whose integration into a new form is still in process, are, in the reading the Healing Archives brings to this passage, completing a specific phase of their transition in this window. The summer turning is what the Federation identifies as a transit corridor, not in the mechanical sense that departure requires precise cosmic timing, but in the sense that certain frequency environments support certain processes more readily than others, and the solstice field creates conditions for the completed passage of what has been left at the threshold. There is a question I have come to answer in this transmission, not the philosophical question of why loss exists. That is a much longer inquiry than this window allows, and it is not the question your body is actually holding. The question your body is holding is something more immediate. It lives in the specific kind of exhaustion that grief creates, the one that is not about physical tiredness and cannot be resolved by sleep. I'm going to name that question and give it the full answer it has been waiting for. But the frame has to come first, because the answer only opens its full meaning from within the context I am building here. What I want to bring through at the other side of this transmission marker, for those who are drawn to continue, are three things. The first is the precise reading of what is actually occurring in your field during grief, in symbolic and frequency terms, because what you have been told, even by well-meaning parts of your own mind, about what grief fundamentally is almost certainly incomplete in the most important direction. The second is a specific map of the three states I observe most consistently in souls who are moving through significant loss, each one described from the inside with the full weight of what it actually feels like to inhabit it, and what each state specifically needs. And the third, which changes how the first two read, is what I am calling the record of the branch. What the one who has departed has left encoded in your field permanently and without your having needed to create it, that will become increasingly legible to you as the integration lag moves at the pace it moves. That third reading is the one I held until the full context was in place. It begins on the other side of this marker.